I own the property, now what? This is kind of a common question that new multifamily owners have. Single family homes, it's a lot simpler. It's just one unit. Most of the time, everything comes empty. But with multifamily, you might have 15 out of 20 units that are occupied, and you have to transition all the tenants over. So I just kind of want to go over what that process entails whenever you take over a new property. The first step when you close escrow on a new apartment complex is picking up the keys. Make sure that you or your property manager can pick up the keys at the designated title company. A lot of the times, the prior owner or the prior property manager will leave all of the keys as well as all the hard copies of the leases with the title company. And when you close, and the title company will know when you close, your property manager needs to make a trip over there to pick up the keys to get things started. Shortly after picking up the keys, the property manager at this point needs to notify all the tenants. At this point, the tenants probably figure the property is being sold after all the due diligence and all the inspections. Remember, we're inspecting all units, and prior to the inspections, we must give tenants a notice that an inspector will enter their unit. So at this point, they probably figured that a new owner is coming in and the property is going to be sold. So once the new property manager takes over, they will typically post notices on all the doors, or if the lease agreements gave the phone number and email address, they can also send over a notification via email. Typically, the notices will provide the following information. So basically, who to contact to submit a service request. There's a new owner now, and sometimes when taking over the property, there's always issues that arrive. Kind of from my experience, whenever a new owner takes over, all the little issues that were deferred are typically brought to light. So expect a lot of service requests the moment you take over a property. The notices will also tell the tenants how to pay rent. It's better to pay rent on auto pay online. They can mail a hard check. They can do a money order. It just tells the tenant how to pay their rent. And lastly, it'll kind of introduce who the new property manager is, just so that they are aware of the transition and who to contact during this transition. So next, the property manager and yourself as the new owner must switch over the utilities immediately. This is very important. So all the common area utilities, gas, water, electric, trash, are under the prior owner's name. There's a little bit of an overlap period, but the prior owners can shut off all utilities at any time. This actually happened to me. The prior owner actually shut off the water, and the tenants had no water for about 2 to 3 hours. You can imagine how many phone calls my property manager received. That's why it's very, very important to switch over all utilities, gas, water, electric, trash immediately so there is no delays and to create a smooth transition. When changing over water and sewer, a large deposit is typically needed. For example, for my 26-unit apartment complex in Oklahoma, the water company required me to put a $7,000 deposit down in order to get service started. So please anticipate this expense. By default, all vacant units will have gas and electric under the landlord. You have to figure out which of these units are vacant and switch them over to you. For example, on my 26 units, it came with 4 vacant units. As a result, I had to switch all the gas, all the electric under my name so that they can have electricity to do any renovations, to do any showings. And if the apartment complex is all bills paid, so remember, all bills paid is a landlord covers everything, gas, water, electricity, and trash. In this case, you got to make sure all those units transition from the prior owner's name to your name. So typically, you can easily find it via Google. I just Google searched Oklahoma City Electric and Gas Company, Oklahoma City Water Company, and once you get those names, please be proactive and contact them immediately. It's a pretty seamless process to do the transition. Some water companies can do it in person, you can do it over the phone, you can do it online. It really depends on the city. The same thing with gas and electric. Some prefer it via email, some require over the phone, or some require in person. The best way to find out is to ask the prior owner or the prior property manager who these utility companies are so that you can kind of be proactive and help your landlord during this transition. It's very, very busy during the landlord, so if you as the owner can help the landlord get started on switching the utilities, it makes it a much more smooth process. Also, there's common areas. There's often a laundry room or a recreation room, and they have gas and electric too. But please remember to switch all common areas over to your name. And as I mentioned before, you can ask the prior owner for the specific names of each area. Sometimes on an electric company, they might call it apartment complex laundry room, and just ask for that specific name. Typically most owners or sellers are very happy to give you that information. After taking over an apartment complex as the new owner, tenants who previously paid may stop paying. The prior owner will always say collections are good, collections are great. Once you become experienced and own a few apartment complexes, you realize there are always tenants who do not pay. This term is called economic occupancy, which means physical occupancy may mean there are 20 out of 22 units occupied, but economic occupancy means there might be 18 out of 22 units that are actually paying. Whatever is reported on the profit and loss statement will always be higher than what you will collect on your first month of ownership. One nice thing about multifamily is the moment you take over an apartment complex, you collect money day one, as long as everything is not vacant. This is a nice advantage in regards to multifamily. If you have 18 out of 20 units, you collect rent day one. It's prorated based on your close date. So if you close on the 15th of the month, you're entitled to about half the rents for that month from the prior owner. So you get money day one. With single family homes, you only get money day one if it's currently occupied. If it's empty, you're going to be cash flow negative until you find a tenant. That's one of the perks of multifamily. As mentioned earlier, some tenants figure a new owner is taking over and the evil new owner will raise rents. That's the first thought that comes to their mind. Oh, my rent has been $200 under market, and tenants know that their rent's under market. But once a new owner comes in and they pay at a higher price and they start renovations, the tenants know that the new owner will come in and raise rents. As a result, some tenants will take advantage of this transition period and not pay for 1 to 2 months, then leave before an eviction is processed. This actually happened to me in all 3 of my properties. On my 26 unit, the moment I took over, about 4 tenants did not pay, and they immediately left the property once we gave them a 15-day notice to pay or leave. And of course they left. On my 20 unit, the same thing happened. The moment I took over the apartment complex, I had 1 or 2 tenants out of the 16 stop pay, and then they basically just left the moment I gave them a 15-day notice, because if an eviction is filed, their chances of renting a new apartment is 0 to none. So because they know that, a lot of tenants will take advantage of the situation. So please come in with this mindset that the moment you take over, there will always be tenants that will not pay. There will be tenants that leave because they know that the new owner is going to raise the rents to market rent. So they want to leave before that happens and kind of take advantage of that situation, unfortunately. When taking over an apartment complex as a new owner, tenants will make lots of repair requests. A lot of the properties, if the prior owner was a slumlord, a single person, mom and pop managing the property themselves, expect a lot of repair requests during your transition. There's a lot of deferred maintenance that will be brought to the forefront, especially as a property manager walks the property. In addition, remember we did a full inspection of all units. At that time, we might see a lot of things that need to be repaired. So in the beginning, there's a lot of repair requests for the deferred maintenance that will be brought to your attention by the tenants as well as that were brought to your attention during the inspection. Some tenants gave up on making repair requests under the old owner, but with a new owner, tenants will be motivated again. On my 20-unit apartment complex, the prior owner did not do anything. There was actually a burned down unit that was left there for about 5 years. The fire happened 5 years ago, and that was left. As a result, what else is being deferred in the other units? If the prior owner was penny pinching in one aspect, they're most likely penny pinching in every aspect. So please expect that a lot of tenants will make a lot of repair requests when you take over. Another thing that is very common when you take over in a new apartment complex is the property manager will be quiet for the first 2 weeks. I know this may sound counterintuitive and may scare a lot of people, especially for those of you buying your first apartment complex. Transitioning over an apartment complex is a lot of work for the property management company. The property manager is busy getting systems in place for the tenants, putting notifications out to the tenants, setting up your property profile on a rent manager application such as Rent Manager, Appfolio, or Buildium, and they're just walking the property to understand what the property entails, what repairs need to be done, and that needs to be coordinated. As a property manager walks the properties, questions will arise. Typically, I like to include my property manager during the property inspection when I'm in the due diligence process, because the property managers, they need to know what to expect day one so that we can hit the ground running the moment we take over the property. Please be patient during the transition with your property manager and always offer to help them. For all 3 of my properties that I purchased, I always was proactive with my property manager during this first 2-week period. I would help them transition over utilities. I would give them prior rent rolls and lease agreements so that they can start building my property portfolio and getting the property set up. As I mentioned, in this business, it's a relationship-based business, and you want to be easy to work with. Because think about it, property managers are not only managing your property, they're managing other owners' properties. And if those owners want to sell, the property manager person is the first person to know, and hopefully that property manager is thinking about you if you want to scale your portfolio. It'll make it even smoother transition, because they're already managing the property, so they know exactly the ins and outs of that current apartment complex. And oftentimes, the property managers are actually brokers themselves, so they'll get a little commission as well. So they're incentivized to sell to you. So please, please treat your property manager well, and they will return the favor tenfold. Believe me. As I always preach, always expect the unexpected. There will always be additional unexpected expenses. Despite doing full property inspections of all the units, things will always break. Anticipate that there will always be additional expenses and have the necessary reserves to cover that. For example, on my 20-unit apartment complex, I did a full property inspection, which included pests and termites, which came out okay. Upon taking over the property, multiple tenants complained of bed bugs. Apparently, one tenant was letting homeless people come into his unit to take a shower and to sleep overnight, and that homeless person may have brought bed bugs, and once you have a bed bug infestation, it's easy to spread. Bed bugs are nasty little critters, and they come out every 3 days. They come out, will bite you, and once they're full of your blood, they go retreat and hide. As a result, to treat the problem, all units must be sprayed. All units must be sprayed. And it costed me $10,000 to treat all 20 units. That's a lot of money. For reference, at best, this apartment complex collected me maybe $5,000 out the gate. But it cost me $10,000, 2 months of rent to treat all units. That's a $10K expense out the gate. That is big. That is huge. A lot of people may be discouraged by this expense, but remember, on this deal, the seller, actually gave me $60,000 off the purchase price. So please remember to think long term. Yes, this 10K bill sucks today, but after I'm done renovating this property, I'm going to force the appreciation of this 20 unit, and I'm going to make back way more than that $10,000 expense, and it will seem little in the grand picture of things in 2 to 3 years. So remember, always think long term. Renovations always cost more and take longer than expected. Renovations will always cost 25% more and take 25% longer, and I'm experiencing this right now. On my 26 unit, I actually had renovations delayed by 6 months due to a labor shortage. And now I have someone working on that 26 unit, but now we're just waiting for kitchen cabinets to come, and this is causing a delay again. As I mentioned, it always takes 25% more in terms of time and 25% more in terms of cost. As walls are torn down, it exposes more things that need repairs. I'm experiencing this right now as well. We're ripping out drywall. We see that the plumbing and electrical needs to be repaired or replaced, and that's adding on more expense and more time. When permit inspectors are involved, they want you to bring things to recent standards. I'm actually going through this process right now on my burned down unit in my 20 unit apartment complex. I was hoping that I didn't have to rip out all the drywall, but the electrical permit inspector came and said, hey, we want you to rip out all the drywall so that we can look at everything, and we want you to replace the entire electrical system. As a result, that's going to cost me more time to replace the electrical system, as well as more time cost, because now I have to replace all the drywall instead of half of the drywall. So as I mentioned, always anticipate that renovations will cost more and take longer, and have the necessary reserves. Always rely on your property manager and contractor for renovation suggestions. You do not want to over improve your property. What works in California may be overkill in Oklahoma. As a result, you must rely on your boots on the ground, especially if you're investing out of state. Right now, I actually am based in California, and I'm investing in Oklahoma and Alabama, and I rely heavily on my property manager and contractor to see what is popular for the local market. All I tell my contractor is that I want a rental-proof property that is clean and functional. Remember, clean and functional. And I typically say I like things that are cost-effective but nice. For example, what's very popular now is luxury vinyl plank flooring, or LVP for short. LVP is cheaper than hardwood and more durable than hardwood, and also water and tenant proof. If you were to try to scratch LVP flooring with your keys, it would not leave a single dent. If you spilled water on LVP flooring, it won't cause any wood swelling like with hardwood. And when tenants turn, it's very easy. All you have to do is just mop the LVP and it's as good as new. Versus with carpet, every time a tenant leaves, you have to clean the carpet and it may be no good and you have to replace the carpet. So that's typically something that I like. But in terms of the color, I leave that to the discretion of the property manager and the contractor. What's the most popular LVP floor color in that area? In California, it's a light gray. In Oklahoma, it also may be light gray, or it might be a dark wood color. In terms of wall paint, is it a light neutral color like white or light gray? For the kitchen cabinets, is it worth it to replace all the kitchen cabinets, or just maybe touch up and repaint the kitchen cabinets and add new handles? You'll be surprised what a fresh coat of paint and cleaning the cabinets will do. Property managers should send you monthly reports. Most property managers use software such as Rent Manager, Buildium, or Appfolio, and those applications can be automated to send you a monthly profit and loss statement and a recent rent roll. And the reason why you want these documents is you want to track how your property is being managed. You want to see how much income you're generating, why a tenant's not paying, what are your expenses, are the expenses reasonable, and you want to see a rent roll to see what your current occupancy of the property is. And you want to see which units are vacant, if renovations are being done, what's the status of those renovations, because you want to keep track of your property and making sure that it is managed appropriately. As I mentioned, property managers, you still have to manage the property manager. Real estate is not truly passive. It can be highly leveraged, but at the end of the day, no one's going to care about your property more than yourself. And a lot of times, the property managers may need some guidance, so I'm oftentimes very proactive in reaching out, seeing if they need anything else from me, and I just like to keep the lines of communication open. But at the minimum, property managers should be sending you monthly reports, and it's kind of an accountability report in my mind to see how things are going.